All right. Hello, Nailed It podcast listeners. I am Elizabeth Lytle, our head of community here at Contractor Dynamics, and I am so pumped about this topic today. We're going to ruffle some feathers. We're going to get into some objections, into some hot button topics in the roofing industry. And I am so excited because I am joined by influencer, chief revenue officer, maybe chief financial officer, maybe head of partnerships, maybe,
Court jester, probably.
Court jester, head prankster. You may not be so sure about him, but I am joined by Mike Goldenstein. I'm so excited. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited about this.
Awesome. Love it. We're so excited to have you on. I think you've been on before. We definitely have some content of you. But today we're going to get into a super exciting topic that people are talking about right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and dig in. If you are a contracting company, specifically a roofing company owner, and you are listening and you want to know what the fastest growing companies are doing to speed up their growth, and you want to avoid $1 million mistakes, then this is the episode for you. We are going to dig into what old school contractors are not doing that you should be doing to make sure that you're not missing out on millions of revenue. So I'm super excited. Mike, before we jump in, tell me a few things about yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do.
So I started in the roofing industry in 1992, which makes me a really, really old dog in this industry. And so over 30 years there, was a contractor for 18 years, with GAF for 12, and now with Roofle for 2. So Roofle is a technology that we consider ourselves the premier top of funnel lead generation tool for a roofing contractor's website. So having lots of fun watching the evolution of the roofing industry once again. I've gone through multiple ones. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and they just seem to be coming faster and faster. So it's just grab on and hold on for the ride.
Awesome. All right. For our listeners who have no idea what Roofle is, give us the quick elevator pitch. What's Roofle?
The quick elevator pitch is we are empowering a local roofing company's website so that you can engage with your online traffic. So put yourself in the shoes of a homeowner. Say it's your ad, a full Facebook ad. Maybe it's a live. What you're compelling your homeowner to come on your website because they can now get a quote in less than 30 seconds from the comfort of their couch, 24 hours a day. They're going to go on your website, put in their address. They're going to see their house in up to 10 structures. We have in less than 2 seconds given you the number of squares, the pitch, the predominant pitch, and the complexity of each one of those structures. And then you're not going to give them a price until they give you their contact information, but it's a give to get, right? They give you their address. You then give them the picture of your house outline. They know it's going to be unique to them. It's catered to them. And so they have to give their information before you give them that quick estimate. So that's why it becomes such a dynamic lead generation tool, because we are seeing website conversions skyrocket because you're giving them the answer to the question that they're asking, which is, I've seen your reviews. I've seen your About Us page. I see your value propositions. I just need to know what's that ballpark price going to be. You're going to be able to do that virtually online and put your products, your pricing, your warranties, everything's in there, and you get the lead.
I heard you specifically say we've seen website conversions skyrocket. So if you're an owner and you're listening to this and you've said something like, yeah, I built a website, but I don't get any leads from it. Or yeah, I'm doing SEO, but I'm not getting any leads. I'm sure we've heard website conversions skyrocket is something you're definitely going to be interested in. This is an interesting topic. I see people talking back and forth in Facebook groups and in other community groups where they're on the fence about this whole concept and idea based on their particular business model. So we're going to get into some of the biggest hesitations that people have in a little bit. And Mike, I'm going to throw the most challenging questions at you. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about those. But what I do want to ask you is this. I heard you say something that I actually hadn't heard before. You were a contractor, like an actual contractor, before you started serving contractors. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. So I was a contractor. Yep. For 18 years. I started while I graduated high school, started running around the country. We were hand nailing 3-tab shingles to salt domes. And I did that. That was my summer job while attending college, and, got married in 97. That's about the time I started my own roofing company here in the Twin Cities. and did that until 2010 when I joined GAF. So I had a unique experience, like a base to build on as far as building my own roofing company and an exterior remodeling. We did a lot of different things, but by the time I became a sales rep for a major manufacturer, I had that base of really understanding the industry very, very well. And then it just kind of got, turned up a notch because now I get the experience of being on the manufacturer side of it. And so that's why you'll see me a lot, in doing storm restoration trainings, code compliance. I see the roofing industry very differently than most people because I do have a lens that goes very, very deep.
Yeah. That hands-on background and experience from being in that side gives you a really valuable insight into what's going through a contractor's mind and what the reality of the business is. And some people, sitting on the other side of that, it's hard to really understand that. It's hard to grasp that. We can all talk about our tools and systems and our coaching and our everything that we've got to offer, but that gives you a unique perspective. When you were a contractor, what were a couple of the primary marketing channels that you guys used to get business?
Well, we didn't really need them. We didn't have them. We didn't really use them. And so that's one of the things that when we talk about how these evolutions go, I mean, the best thing we had, again, you're probably not even going to know what this is, but back in the day, they had this thing called the Yellow Pages, and the people would name their companies AAA aardvarkroofing.com. There was no .coms in there, right? And so these are the things that we prop up our kids when they can't reach the tables. And so, there really wasn't a ton of marketing opportunities back then, and you could throw $500 here or there and see if it works, advertising maybe in a local restaurant or bar. But for the most part, it was all word of mouth, all referrals. And that is really where I think a lot of companies are still stuck. Because you think about it, yeah, it was 15, 20 years ago, but it was only 15, 20 years ago. And so this is where, as a transition is emerging, you have to kind of figure it out. It's a different world today than it was back then.
It's a different world. I do, in fact, remember the Yellow Pages. Even though I'm only 29, I've been 29 for the last 5 years. I am familiar with the Yellow Pages. I read a story recently that said one of the reasons that Apple was named Apple is because it was above Atari in the Yellow Pages. So it would come first. And so that's the way people used to think about it, right? It was handshakes. It was kissing babies. It was word of mouth. It was pen and paper, that kind of thing. But buying behavior has changed a lot. Like you said, only 15, 20 years ago, but a lot happens with technology and the way that buyers consume information and do their research in just a few years. So a lot has changed since then, for sure.
So let's talk about very specifically, what is it that changes? I want to use some very specific data, and this is coming from Marcus Sheridan. You hear me talk about him all the time. I'm sure his name will come out a lot here. But what specifically has changed? So if you're talking about 2000, 2005, 2010, homeowners were about 20% of the way through their decision-making process before they ever picked up that phone, opened up the phone book, whatever, picked up the phone and called the contractor. They're 20%. So when you are training your salespeople, what are you training them to do? They got to go into the home, and then they have to help that homeowner go the other 80% to the closed sale. Well, do you have any idea what that number is now? How far along that decision-making process are they today before they ever go on your website and fill out the form fill or call your front office? What is that number today?
It's got to be significantly more. People do so much research nowadays. What is it, 50, 60%?
It's over 80%. We are going to be over 90% here shortly. So now, again, this is what we're talking about. What is the particular challenge when you're now helping your salespeople understand what does that look like now? Well, you're not starting back at 20%. So don't pretend like you're going to have an invite to sit in their table and take up an hour and a half or 2 hours to start them and pretend they're still back at 20. They're at 80, 85, 90% of the way through. You just have to help them through that last 10 to 15%. So that's the challenge. Now, what has led to that challenge, and you already touched on it there really quickly, what has changed that there used to be 20, now they're 80% through that decision-making process? It's the internet and the amount of online content that they're consuming before they ever decide who they're going to call. And by the time they're deciding who to call or to fill out that form fill, they're ready to buy. So treat them like that.
Yep. That's right. Yeah, that is a complete and entire game changer when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to the systems that we're utilizing. If you are not adapting to utilizing tools that allow people during their research to find you and feel really certain and confident that they can work with you and easy, to navigate and figure out what you offer and what problems you solve and how you're going to take their stress away, then you are going to absolutely fall behind. So, Mike, let's talk about this sort of mindset. I am an OG contractor. I've been in it for years. I drive around in my truck and I've got a, yellow legal pad and I'm writing everything down and I shake hands and my CRM is a large file cabinet behind me of manila folders. Okay. That's the mindset I'm in. What am I missing out on doing business that way?
Your consumer base is dwindling, frankly. And I tell a story about this to kind of, to illustrate this, because I know a lot of people are parents. If you've had engagements with your kids like this, I have an 8-year-old and he came to me and he said, Dad, who's the greatest running back in NFL history? I say, well, it's Walter Payton, of course. I mean, he is the greatest that has ever lived in NFL. And the first thing he did, he grabbed my phone from me and he goes, hey, Siri, who's the best running back in NFL history? Like, wait, I just told you who it was. Like, who am I now that you're not even... So the younger generations who has been raised with a device in their hands or a computer on their desk. Again, when I was a computer science, that's the other thing. Nobody probably knows this about me. Very few people. I was a computer science major for 2.5 years in college before I switched my major. I did not own a computer until years after I graduated college. We did not have computers back then. Today, you not only own computers, you pretty much have a computer on you all the time in your phone. And so this generation, who's now about 40 years old and younger, who has always had a computer on their desk or had access to them, they are making the purchasing decisions and they think differently to the extent that, again, going back to the notepad, this is how we've always done it. They don't trust you. Or at very least, they trust the computer more than they do you. And that's a shot to our egos. We don't want to do business that way. That's not how we did business. That's not how my dad did the business. This is me, and this is not how I create it. This is not how I do business, And one of the hardest things is being able to let go of control in the purchasing process. And that is one of the hardest things for older contractors to be able to do. Right, I'm going to take myself out of my shoes as a company owner that I have built and I have sweated and bled for decades in. And I'm going to let some of the stuff go and give control to the consumer because that's how they think and that's how they feel. And that's how they do business with companies.
That's right. Yeah. The name of the game in having a business, especially in this day and age, is analyzing and adjusting, whether that's looking at your marketing or your people data, whether that's the way that you recruit, whether that's the technology that you're utilizing. We have to analyze and adjust, and understanding consumer buying behavior in this day and age is extremely important. Otherwise, we are going to become the dinosaurs. We are going to become the ones that are completely overcome by our younger and more tech savvy competition. And especially if you are in an area that is oversaturated and there is a roofing company on every block, then in order to actually be able to cut through the noise and stand out, technology is going to be the way that you do that. Of course, there's your culture and your values and the way you treat people, but you can show those things through the utilization of technology. So let's talk a little bit, Mike, about the ways that we can do that and where people are doing their research right now. So from a person who loves marketing and geeks out over marketing all the time, I'm thinking about, consumers are going into their local Facebook group, where they complain about so-and-so didn't pull their trash cans up early enough. Or, hey, did y'all see the kids riding their golf carts around the neighborhood? Somebody, let's snitch on them. But they're also going into those groups and they're saying, hey, I've got a leak. I need a roofing contractor. Who do you recommend? So that's 100% a place where people are going to start doing their research. Where are some other places where you're seeing that consumers are doing their research before they're reaching out to companies?
Yeah, they're definitely doing it. They're Google searching. They're doing the local Facebook, social media. One of the things that I think people forget, and you're going to have to get better and better at, which I so appreciate the efforts that Contractor Dynamics is making in this. You got to put it on video. It's video, 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 video. They want to see you. They want to hear you talk. There's so much trust that's being built and a lot of education that you can do on video. But you think about that. How do you now? Because again, what you're doing, the whole name of the game is building trust. And how are you building trust? You're building trust through transparency, but you're building trust by speaking the language that they're listening to. And the other one that you have to be ready for. So again, it's not just about now, but the not yet, ChatGPT and your AI. They are already, I'm telling you, and this is again coming Marcus Sheridan but I've heard this so many times. Google and how we look at Google today, how it functions, how it looks, how it runs, will not be, it'll look completely different in 5 to 6 years.
That's right.
It's not going to be that way. So you're going to have, somebody going on ChatGPT or Zorg or Zlot or whatever these names are. Something's going to, one of these chatbots or AI generations they're going to take over this, and people are going to say, "Who's the best roofer in Ramsey, Minnesota?" And they're going to take series recommendations. So where your business going to land, when it comes to these AI chatbots?
It's huge. Yeah, these SEO has changed a lot due to all of these chat bots and zero-click searches and all of that. And the reality is that I talked to a contractor recently who said, I'm not interested. I don't want to talk about the whole AI thing. That's the way he said it. The whole AI thing. It's new. I don't trust it. And while I understand the perspective, I don't necessarily want a bunch of robots in my home quite yet. I don't want a chip in the back of my neck quite yet. I'm not there. However, the reality is that things like ChatGPT and all of these chatbots, they're really not brand new. People are utilizing them frequently. And it's not just the teenagers who are utilizing these things, although it is younger people who are going to grow up and be the people who are purchasing from our companies. It's people like you and me. And the reality is that if we are not adapting and we're not utilizing these tools, number one, we're slower. Number two, other people are being seen before we are. Number three, we're less efficient. So the adaptation of these kinds of tools it's not an interesting, new thing that we can try or a luxury anymore. It is it needs to be a foundational piece of our business. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I like the way you described all of that is we're really trying to get customer or contractors to think systematically about their business, because what I hope nobody ever gets, I get really passionate about this stuff and I get excited about it, but at the same time, I'm not screaming and yelling at you to stop doing what you're doing. Stop doing what you're doing. You got to do it a different way. That's not what we're saying. We're saying step back, take a systematic look at everything that you're doing, because it all matters, and be open to figuring out, because each one of these are like different fishing holes. I'm in Minnesota. Everybody else all have fishing, right? So some of the fishing holes are drying up and others are being populated very rapidly. So have a systematic approach to be able to be flexible in the way that you're presenting yourself. And then another thing that I think Contractor Dynamics does such a great job of is focusing on your brand, because at the end of the day, the more transparent you're being, the more you're being online, the more that your brand is going to be the separator between who customers are going to come to and ask you to do their home improvement projects.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you've mentioned, what we're doing at Contractor Dynamics, and one of the things that we really love about partnering with companies and with the education side of our business, what we're able to do is help people dig into the areas that they're really, really good at and figure out how to leverage tools to do more of those things. And we work with some really amazing legacy companies where grandfather started and then father, and now there's the young sons and they're taking over and they're digitalizing everything and they're, moving really quickly. And one thing that we notice is that grandfather and father are feeling like the business is changing so much. And sometimes change is really difficult. However, they're amazed at how the culture of the company, we can still keep that consistent. The foundational values that we had, we can keep that consistent through the utilization of tools and AI and things like that still have the same voice. And so we're able to help these companies bring the old values and the things that they're really good at and those excellent relationships and leverage tools to continue to build those relationships and to continue to have the same voice and the same values that the company was built on. And we love being able to do that. One of the challenges that we find that contractors have is trying to figure out there's so much out there. There are so many different tools and there's so much noise when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to technology. How do we even choose? There's so much. We get the privilege of being able to, vet a lot of these companies and understand these tools. And so there are a handful that we recommend. Working with Roofle is one of those things for a number of reasons. Number one, we think Mike G is a pretty cool guy and he knows his stuff and he takes care of people. Number two, we see the use of the tools that you all talk about complementing the marketing strategies that we recommend that people utilize extremely well. So let's dig in a little bit into the different tools that you are recommending that contractors use. And let's talk a little bit then about how to actually make those tools work for you.
Yeah, and just to give a little bit of a picture of this, and again, I enjoy talking to roofers specifically because you probably know what I'm talking about. Back in the mid 90s, late 90s, there was a new tool that came out on the market. It was a pneumatic nail gun. It was for the first time you could actually have something that had, nails that were strung together, and you could basically, as fast as you could run a nail gun, you put your nails into a shingle. So Elizabeth, I'll ask you, my parting gift to my boss, who basically funded my summer work and funded me through college, I gave him a pneumatic nail gun in 1997. When did he open it up and use it?
Oh, gosh. You would hope right away, but I bet it was a long time later.
It was 2001. 2001. So he sat on that for 4 years. Now, the reason why this is all important, though, is because there's good reasons why he didn't open it up and actually use it, because it was state of the art. It was the top technology that we had, but it also was just a really cool tool unless you plugged it in. What do you plug it into? Well, you got to plug it into an air hose, which, well, if you got an air hose, you need an air compressor. If you have an air compressor, you then need access to a gas compressor or electric. There are all these pieces that have to come together to make this tool actually function. And so as we look at adopting some of these technologies, it's more complex than just purchasing a cool tool and thinking that it's just going to magically just work. So then just exactly what you were saying. So now you've got so many things to choose from. Which ones do you choose? Honestly, I would say it doesn't really matter, but don't do too many. Like, get really good at one. And then once you master that one, then adopt another one and then adopt another one to whatever your capacity is or your team's capacity. Because what we're seeing in our subscribers, we're now at thousands of subscribers around the country, and the only ones that leave us are the ones that never started. Mm-hmm. And I can see that probably in a lot of other ones where they fell in love with the vision of what this thing could do or be for them. But then they get busy again because they got production and they got sales and they got training and they got to do all this stuff. And so then they forget about it. And then by then they're like, well, it just didn't work the way I thought it would. Or, at some point they're like, yeah, we just didn't implement it. So, as you're adopting tools, really my biggest thing is find an owner of that tool, somebody that can really dive into it and get the most out of it. And don't spread yourself too thin by adopting too much all at once.
I love that. Yes. Two things there that you said. Don't do them all at once. Don't do a ton of them. We call that in the marketing world like shiny object syndrome, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a TikTok influencer and I'm going to run Google ads and I'm going to, create all these new videos and I'm going to do this, postcard campaign, and we're going to do it all at once and we're going to do it really fast. And then we are so excited. And then it's exactly like you said, the consistency drops off and we don't pay quite as much attention to it as we should have. And then we don't really know what worked and what didn't work and we cut everything. and we're kind of just jumping on the next thing instead of keeping things consistent. So we have enough data to decide, did that work? Did that not work? Why did it not? And the other thing that you said that I love is, find an owner of that. We at Contractor Dynamics say you need someone who's the GC of your marketing. Somebody needs to be the one who ensures that whatever tool you're utilizing or whatever marketing channel you're utilizing, or many that you're utilizing, tools and channels, that somebody is putting into it what it needs to be successful, that someone has eyes on it on a consistent long-term basis, that someone is making sure that all of those things are working well together. So I love that. That's huge. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Roofle tools.
So that's one of the things, that you are only limited by your own creativity. It's long been said that the ABCs of sales is always be closing. I refuse to believe that's true. I think it's always be creating. There are so many different ways to implement this, and some of them don't cost much at all. So there's online strategies, and that's the one that you need traffic to your website for it to work. If nobody's coming to your website, nobody's going to be putting in their address to get an instant quote from you. A lot of that stuff, and it takes SEO, it takes advertising, it takes, a lot of SEO, SEM, a bunch of other words that I can't spell. Do you know how long it took me to be able to spell SEM? It's crazy. But then there's so many offline, and I think that's where, again, when you're taking people who can own this, you can be so successful so quickly. Like, that's why I say, don't spread yourself too thin. Pick the one that you're going to be really have fun with or be creative with. So there's a lot of offline strategies that we absolutely love. So one of them is putting a QR code on the tailgate of a truck saying, get a quote before a light turns green. Like, you're helping homeowners that, wait a second, this is really a thing. I could be stuck in traffic and getting roof leads. We do QR codes. Like, I like talking about engaging with your community. Your baseball fields, your football fields, and be funny with it. I'm in hockey territory. You go to the youth hockey league, the kid that keeps getting in fights and gets into the penalty box. Well, get a quote on your roof before little Johnny gets out of the penalty box. There's so many easy, quick, and how much does it cost to do a QR code or a little sign at the local hockey rink? Probably, a few $100. So you're really engaging, you're helping your branding because you're being creative, being funny, you're being, attractive to your desired audience. QR codes on your catch-all. I mean, how great is this, right? You've already got your catch-all. It's a great place, but what is also unique about that? Well, if you're already doing that job and you're tearing it off, you can probably assume that most of the houses, the roofs in that area are already in the same condition, whether it's a storm, hail damage, or just old, right? So you've literally stuck a billboard right in the middle of your desired community. And now you're saying, do you want to know what this roof would cost on your house? QR code, get an instant estimate. Door knockers, door signs, door knockers. We've got an internal tool that you put in your hands of your sales guys, outside sales, inside sales, production guys. They can do this inside and not corrupt the data that's coming in from your website. Again, this transparency is what is creating trust in 2025. People don't want you to be hiding stuff anymore. So help them trust you by being a little bit more transparent with the questions that they're asking.
I love it. Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned so many different ways to be able to ensure that you're actually connecting with people, providing value, maybe putting some humor in it, actually driving people to a tool. Those are awesome. Well, all right, Mike, I've got some questions for you. I hear about this whole instant estimate thing, but I'm a little bit skeptical. So let's get into it. I'm in a little bit more of a rural area, so there's no way that can work in my area.
Yeah, that's a great thing for us, is that we don't use the services of your typical satellite digital measurement company. We have a proprietary process that uses 11 different data sources. So we're doing our job in less than 2 seconds, but we're also doing it anywhere in the country. There's a lot of times where there's too much tree cover, where your typical aerial measurement companies don't work, and we do. So our technology is very, very unique in that way that we actually get measurements, often, no matter where it's at, and in getting structures that I did one once, and I was at a show, and he put it in, and he's like, "Okay, that's our tree house. How did you do that?" Magic.
Amazing. Magic. I love it. Good stuff. Speaking of magic, I put an instant estimator tool on my website, and it sat there, and I don't think it even worked. So I don't really believe in tools like this.
Yeah. So when we see dwindling conversion rates, because again, this is about getting 6 times the number of leads that you would without an instant estimator. So your average roofing contractor website nationwide is somewhere in that 1% to 2% range. Ours are in the 6% range, or even higher, depending on how they're using it. So you say, okay, so how do I use it correctly? Well, putting it on your homepage, for example, where you have, a dozen other call to actions, is going to dwindle that conversion rate significantly. So when you're going to do a Facebook ad or a Google ad, or if you're promising a homeowner that they're going to get a quote from you in less than 30 seconds from the comfort of their couch 24 hours a day, don't send them to your homepage, send them to a dedicated landing page that is still branded to you, so they still know that you. Don't send them off to a different website either. That's a killer too. Make sure it's coming to your website. It's branded to you, but that's it. All they can do is put in their address and get their quote. You're going to see your conversions skyrocketing. That's typically where I start with. If there's somebody that's frustrated with it not really working, it's because they didn't create the right funnel for that to be successful.
That's great. Yeah. One of the things that we get to do at Contractor Dynamics is help people, number one, with those funnels, building those things out, but also figure out ways, like you just said, branding your, putting a QR code on your catch-all, or a QR code on that sign at the, little league, fence, or running social media ads to your tool and actually showing people a visual of how easy it is to figure out what those numbers are. Because like we discussed, people are doing this research ahead of time. The very common searches are things like, how much is it going to cost for a roof replacement in X, Y, and Z area, zip code, neighborhood, that sort of thing for this size house. People are trying to figure out this information. So if you can have this ready available, and while people are doing their research, they can go directly to somewhere that's going to give an exact answer to the question that they have, that not only helps create certainty, but it positions you as more of a trusted resource of information and knowledge. It like you said, it develops some of that trust. And if they've done that first and then they talk to you, there's already that kind of familiarity. There's already that certainty developed, which helps. Not only are you going to get more leads, but it's going to help with your actual closing rates as well. However, that does lead me into the next very common thing that I hear. Well, I am a high-priced roofing company. We're doing high-end projects, and I'm very concerned about a tool like this because I haven't had the opportunity to show value to people before they see that price.
I love that objection because, again, it's you have to know the data. So let me ask again, how many pages of online content does the average homeowner consume before making a decision on a home improvement project? How many pages of online content?
That's good.
Some people are like, 5,
20,
7, 66. 66 pages of online content are they consuming before they make that purchasing decision. So, Mr. Contractor, do you believe that you cannot, with a structured path of educating and showing value, you can't build value in 66 pages? Again, here's the problem. This is where these two ideas now collide and marry and then get divorced. Is, remember, you're saying that the only way that I can show that type of value is for me to step into your house and tell you, and yet we just showed you they don't trust you. I don't care what you tell them and how you tell them or how beautiful you are. They don't trust you. What do they trust? Your online reviews, your About Us page, the amount of backlinks to the information that they're looking for. Like, this is where they build trust to you, and how, they get your value is online, not in person. So this is the challenge, because again, here's the other challenge. And this is the one that kind of blows a lot of people away, because I will look them right in the eye and say, okay, I know your salespeople. I know they've been trained. Many of them have been trained on Facebook groups. If I give you a homeowner who has read 66 pages of online content, how often are they going to know more than your salesperson? Mm-hmm. And then I get this, So this is why this is also super important. And I think one of the reasons why we want to think systematically about our company, to be able to be that source for our consumers, both online and offline, because you still have a lot. I'm 51. My generation and older, we still I want somebody to come over. I will ask a referral, right? I know my buddy has a friend who does driveways. I'm going to go there first. I'm going to have him come in, and he's going to sit down with me, because that's how I do business. The problem is these younger generations, again, when I say I trust a computer more than a person, I want you to really know what that means, what that looks like. That means that, yes, I've got a buddy who's got a cousin, kid, uncle, whoever who does this. I'm telling you, I don't trust that, because that's your buddy's cousin, uncle, kid, not because he's the right contractor for me. It's just because you want him to get the business. So what do I trust? I trust 100 reviews, because now I get to look through 100 people that have nothing to do personally with this contractor. That's going to give me a better sense of whether this is the right person for me, more than a referral. So that's why I say the psyche of the consumer looks very different in that 40-year-old and younger. And yet we also have to understand that they are already owning over 40% of the single family homes. So that's a pretty big fish pond to be in. So again, think systematically and have your referral systems. Those are great, and those are going to continue to pay big dividends. But don't forget about your online consumers and help them have a path to be able to do business with you. Because if you are insisting on knocking on their door to get into their kitchen table, you are closing off that 40 and below for the most part.
That's right. Yeah. One of the things that I thought was interesting when I was doing a little bit of research recently in helping a contractor of ours develop a social media groups and next door strategy for connecting with people and building their local presence and generating leads, was that many people go to places like that and they ask for a recommendation, or they gather some names, and then they gather a group of names. And then there's another step of, like you're saying, there's another step of research that they're doing. They're looking at sites. They're looking at sometimes their social pages, because they're clicking directly there. They're looking at their Google reviews. They're clicking all around. And so what you're talking about with building value, if you can build strong social proof, you can create excellent video content and generate lots of reviews and respond to those reviews and have excellent images and things like that, where people see all of those, then it's like you said, you're not solely reliant on somebody's incredible, sales skills to be bending people's arm in order to be able to work with you, because you have all of these things that you can leverage ahead of time. So that's huge. What about this one, Mike? I think I've seen this a couple of times where people are concerned about the numbers. Well, what if we actually have to charge more? What if it's less? What if the numbers aren't what they should be? How do we get through that?
Yeah. So again, I would say put yourself in the shoes of your average consumer, even if they're your own. If I see a Dodge truck that's got 30,000 miles and it's on the market for $36,786.42, I don't grab that money out of my bank and show up with $38,762.28. What do? I already know there's tax, titles, license fees, origination charge, destination charge, etc. What we are doing is when we're being transparent, it's in a good faith estimate. It's part of the online process that every consumer is already used to. Is there going to be some things that affect the price? Absolutely. So what do? You tell them about it. You're not just showing a price. Don't say, this is what this price includes. This is the stuff it does not include. And don't think that like you don't have to oversell that process. Like that's the process that they're buying everything with that in mind. They know that there's taxes on this. I mean, so don't settle for that. Now, so you're going to get a lot more leads. Again, this is about having a really compelling reason for a homeowner to do business with you. But what you're going to find is a lot of homeowners are going to pay a premium as much for the process of them being able to buy from you as they are your goods and services. And that might be another one where we check our ego at the door, because we might want to we want to tell them all about us and how great we are. And they're like, no, man, I was able to do that in about 30 minutes of work. I would pay $1,000 to not have you come in my home, type of thing. So yeah, so you do want to be specific. Being transparency is about being accurate, but also understanding, tell them exactly what could affect that price one way or another. Decking issues, code compliance issues, second layers, different accessibility, stuff that we can't do in an instant estimate. Tell them what they are ahead of time, and you'll be successful at doing it anyway.
That's huge. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, let's kind of wind things down here and focus on just a handful of final tips for contractors and let's talk to a couple of different groups here. So if I'm a brand new contractor and I'm young and I want to do things the right way, I want to keep the soul of the OG contractors, that kind of thing, and still build relationships, but I also want to leverage technology. Let's give one tip to that young contractor who's kind of trying to grow the right way, keep the soul, but be smart and be able to, leverage the tools. What's one tip for that young contractor?
I would go to learn your trade first. If you think about it, this is what roofing is really unique about, is that I could become a roofer tomorrow with zero training at all. And there's a couple places you really need to know about roofing, because you think about this, you're signing a contract with a homeowner to do a very specific thing for their house. And if you don't know how that thing actually goes together, and you're going to rely on sub crews or somebody else to do the labor, listen, that is your contract with that homeowner. You need to learn your trade. And where I go back to, again, this is kind of my other life of, code compliance and actually installation. I know every manufacturer's installation guidelines and tech bulletins, inside, outside, and backward. I really want people who are going to be successful in the roofing industry to know roofing, period. Because we do have a lot of people that are great marketers, and they are great at doing content and making videos and getting popular and building a brand. But if you don't know your actual trade, you bring a lot more liability to your company than you probably think.
Big time. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about our contractors who they've been in the game a while. They've started to use some more tools. In fact, they've gone through a lot of them. They've used a lot of different marketing, avenues, and they're getting into digital, but they're overwhelmed. One tip for them that you would give them?
Pick one thing and do it well. And I would even say pick something that you like. Because again, there's nothing that gets you more excited about something than a little bit of success. I do think that, like you were saying, chase the shiny object we all fall for that in our own personal and professional lives. But if you start getting overwhelmed, back up a little bit, pick something, do it really well before you pick up another thing.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then speaking to our last group here, we are, we're bringing the younger generation into the business, and we've been hesitant, but we're starting to open our minds a little bit to maybe AI, to tech, to that sort of thing. What's like one final piece of advice that you would give that group of people?
Be upfront, be transparent. So trust is built through transparency. So the more transparent you can be with the homeowner, you are going to find a better success. The more transparent you are, just don't be hiding things ever. Whether that's price, whether that's bad reviews, whether that's, a job that went bad, and it made you go back out there, take care of that homeowner. Man, we screwed up on that one. But here, we're going to make it right, so, really being that kind of a person in business, you're going to see your referrals go up, your branding go up, and even your reviews reflect that. Cause because I know there's probably a lot of people listening right now that you look at the bad reviews just as hard as you do the good reviews. And if there's a lot of times those bad reviews are the ones that say, based on that bad review, that's the person I want to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big one. Yeah, we get a lot of people very concerned about that, but the way that you handle those difficult situations is oftentimes one of those game changers for in people's minds. Wow, that's how they handled that situation. Great. That's exactly who I need to be working with.
Yep.
And we're all going to face that. We all make mistakes. We're all going to have issues. That's real. Perfect companies who never make mistakes. I'm a little wary of that. I would rather work with a company who makes some mistakes and owns up to it and makes it right. Right. I was talking to a contractor last week. He said, yeah, I've been in this long enough. I've certainly made mistakes. And I said, okay. And it felt like he needed to get something off his chest. And he talked about how they put the wrong roof on that past week. And I was like, I'm sure most of us have a story similar to that. We tore the wrong roof off. We showed up to the wrong place. We were late. We messed up. It started raining, once the roof was off. Those things happen, but how we handle those are huge. That's
Yep.
It's extremely important. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, to kind of close things out here, I want to give a couple of quick tips to those of you who came here trying to figure out what you need to do to leverage technology to ensure that you're growing effectively. And to those of you who don't want to miss out on that fast growth that you can have, couple quick tips that I would give you. Number one, if you are going to utilize a tool like the tools that Mike mentioned earlier, remember that you need to have a GC. Somebody needs to be in charge of seeing that tool through. It's the same thing with marketing. Somebody needs to be in charge. We need to see consistency. We need to utilize that. We need to get data. We need to utilize the data. And then the last thing I would say is, as you are getting more into utilizing AI in whatever way, maybe that's content creation, maybe that's doing research, maybe that's sending, texts to your wife, maybe that's creating emails to send out to people. Remember that we're utilizing AI to speed up efficiency, to make things easier, to have more transparency, but we still need a human element. So make sure that if you're having AI create a bunch of content for you, that you're taking a look at it first. All right, Mike, can we do some rapid fire Q&A here at the end?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. Mike, give me a book or a podcast that you recommend.
Oh, I got to go with my man, Marcus Sheridan. They Ask You Answer you're going to, as soon as you open up the pages of that book, you're going to go like, okay, I see that. It's one of the best nuts and bolts way to see your business in 2025 than anything I've seen in my career.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, great. What is an industry event maybe that's coming up this year or early next year that you would highly recommend?
I would highly recommend tuning in to our Roof Guru Fantasy Draft. We take all the draft, we're bringing fantasy draft for the roofing industry. Just like you play fantasy football, fantasy. I'm kidding. That's actually not going to happen. Actually, it should happen. I'll probably have to redo that. I'll probably have to do that one because does it have to be real? Because we do a lot of fake stuff. And some of it is like, I really want to do it.
Incredible. It can be real. It can be not real. This is a weird digital AI world that we're talking about here. So whatever you think.
Just because it's not real doesn't mean it's not important.
This is true. This is true.
So very specifically though, so we did 67 events in 2024. We're anticipating being that 75 to 80 events in 2025. Some of my favorite ones is just make sure you are getting involved with some of them because your local, and I do like the local ones. I like the manufacturer and the distributors that are inviting some of these in on a local level. It doesn't cost you much to attend, but they are giving you the X-ray vision that the roofing industry demands today with all the private equity that's coming in. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of developments and changes, specifically in the storm restoration space, but also in products and installation. And there's so many things that are coming and it's so fast. Get involved with your local manufacturers and distributors, and make sure you're involved with some of those local events are really the best ones I see out there as far as, really being able to keep your business in a position to continue to not just succeed, but to thrive.
Awesome. I love that. That's great. All right. Tell me one thing that you are super excited about this year.
Something exciting. Man, I travel a ton, but I think the one thing that I think I'm most excited about is something you just said, and I didn't know was possible. Is it really possible for me to, with AI, have them set up is this like a drip campaign of text messages to my wife?
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
like,
It's an incredible tool. You can schedule out, and you can even say, like, send sweet messages to my wife every morning at 6:30 a.m. Here's the thing. It's whether or not you want your wife to know that you're not actually the one sending them, because I had a conversation with somebody recently who set those up, and his wife thought, this is the sweet, you are thinking of me every morning at 6:30. And then they were at breakfast and he forgot, and she got the text message from him while he was mid-bite, and she went, you're not sending these text messages, and he's in trouble.
Yeah. So if there was something, yeah, I mean, I do. I travel a ton, and I'm in the stage of life that it's tough, and I do have 5 kids, and maybe at some point this year, maybe I'll not travel quite so much. So I know that's probably not the greatest answer in the world, but at some point, I think I'm getting to the end of my physically able to perform the duties that I've been doing.
Mike needs to sit down a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Awesome. Well, Mike, this has been great. Thank you so much for your insight and all of this information that people can utilize right away. How can people get in touch with you? If they've got some questions, if they need some further support, where can they find you?
Yeah, roofle.com is a great place for you to go on, and we actually have an active demo account. Don't look at the pricing necessarily, because I don't know that anybody actually keeps up on the pricing. What we want to do is make sure that you get the flow of it, understand how the tool works. Just know that we will white label that experience to your website. When you do, you can schedule a demo. That's really what we look for. Give us 30 minutes. We'll show you how it works, why it's important, how it can fit into your business. If you are a current subscriber, go to roofle.com as well. We have once you are onboarded, you have unlimited onboarding access. So you have access to what we call a customer success team. So whether your question is technical related or marketing related, or just want an account review, go to roofle.com, sign up. You get access to our calendars. It's all free. So please do that. Find us. We would love to talk to you and continue this conversation.
Amazing. Awesome stuff. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here. Contractors, if you are listening, we are going to keep all of Mike's information and all of that down in the comments, so you can take a look in the description below and you can gather all of that information. We have a few awesome episodes coming up for you, so stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we would love to have you stick around. Thanks so much for listening, you guys, and y'all go have a great rest of your day.